Welcome to the Influence Global podcast, and I'm so delighted. So often I do these interviews from my home, and actually I've come all the way to the Coty head office here in Wimbledon in London, and I'm delighted to have with us my very good friend Grace Funk, who is the head of Influence Lead, isn't it?
Hello, yes, I'm Grace. I'm the influencer marketing comms lead for Coty UK and look after all the luxury brands within our portfolio.
Great. And I'm also joined here by Kay, who runs Hype Site, isn't that? Tell us a little bit about
So HypeSide is a luxury talent management agency. So we manage talent globally in the luxury kind of sphere for fashion and beauty.
Fantastic. Yeah. This is your first podcast.
It's my first podcast.
So exciting.
So excited. With my best friend.
Yeah. Thank you.
With your best friend. So we are going to talk, this podcast is going to be all about what makes a great collaboration between brands and content creators, influencers. You've been doing this for a long while, Grace, haven't you? And you've worked with some amazing influencers. What are the sorts of things that really jump out at you that say, yeah, that is a perfect collaboration?
So obviously we started out doing PR. I've been at Coty for 14 years. So
part of the furniture.
Yes, part of the furniture. I've been in this building for a long time. Lots of stories. So starting out doing PR, obviously, and maintaining your press relationships, and that kind of evolve into what we know now as influencer marketing. But ultimately, it's all about telling a story and finding the right type of talent to tell the story that you want to tell on behalf of your brands. And like a lot of other people, we started doing this maybe 6-7 years ago, and it has actually progressed and evolved so much, probably the last 3 years, I would say, working predominantly on a lot of paid partnerships. At Coty, all our brands, we kind of value more on the long-term partnerships. So once we work with a talent, we'd like to at least have 1 to 2 years of that relationship with them, whether it's paid or non-paid. So that's kind of something that you really have to work hard on, grafting that relationship, building that rapport, that trust, but also understanding what your brands are looking for in order to find the right talent to fit the kind of narrative that you would like to tell that story for on behalf of the brands.
That's great. And Kay, at Hype Site, we were talking earlier that people often approaching you, aren't they, because they want to work with you. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because as an agency, we just don't compromise on our standards and like who we work with. So we only work with top tier brands. And like Grace said, we're more not in it for the quick cash and like to cultivate long-term relationships. And with our talent, we try to get them onto more like annual like contracts, so we can actually work with the brand hand in hand and work collaboratively, where it's both mutually beneficial. And so that's why I think they approach us, because we built a name for that.
From a fashion background, and it plays to the advantage with a beauty company who has a license with the fashion house, that Kay has inside knowledge on like what talent would work for fashion, and then sometimes it works better when we already know some of your talents already doing campaigns with the fashion house, then we then approach them for our beauty campaigns, and it just kind of having very good synergy.
Yeah.
So do you think of campaign or do you think of content creator first? How does that really work?
I mean, for us, from an agency point of view, obviously we've got our talent pool on our roster, and we manage them globally. And for us, we look at more the brand fit before a campaign, because I feel like the vision for the brand and the talent needs to be aligned, and there needs to be almost like a kind of passion towards that brand. They need to be a consumer already. They need to believe in the product, because I think nowadays you can tell when someone's being fake and putting it on, and it's not engaging. And we want our talent to be like true to themselves. So then we look at the brand first, and then after that, what we do is we look at key moments and then also pitch to the brands for those key moments, whether it's like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, or like Women's Day, because one of our talent really believes in like female empowerment. And then Grace within the brand will be like, these are the campaigns we're working on, these are the synergies. this talent we have a relationship with, and then we can't go from there from our point of view.
And I think that's why it's so important for a brand to build personal relationship either with the talent themselves or with the agents, because only they can tell us their personal journey. Even if you have a campaign that spans across the whole year, including Father's Day, you wouldn't understand someone's life unless they tell you, actually, well, this talent might not fit this campaign because something happened to them.
Right.
Or maybe you work with them for so long that you know that you're intrinsically aware that you shouldn't ask them to do certain moments because it doesn't really align to their beliefs or their values, or maybe personal reasons. So without that understanding, if you just look at numbers, sometimes people would think, let's just look at the platform and see the insights and the engagement, which is obviously very important. But the personal, on a deeper level, understanding the talent goes very hand in hand, because that's when you can create
100%.
really great content.
So what if somebody that was to reach out to you directly as a brand and say, look, I've got something really exciting and I want to work with you. You don't know this person. They could be a good fit, but they may not be. What would your what would happen next?
So normally we obviously do have that, and sometimes it's a tip for talent who don't have representation, that they send out probably mass emails to introduce themselves, and sometimes they don't remember to
Change
remove the brand names, which still happens.
Oh my goodness.
You know, it's a common mistake. After sending about 100, you might
Yeah.
lose track who you're sending to. But really personalize those emails. Look into that the brand or the company that you want to approach. What were the latest campaign? Is there like a campaign that really caught your eye? And then you kind of give them some insights on what you think and how you think you will fit into their brand. When I see an email like that, I feel like they've actually made an effort.
Right. It's
Rather
like
than
trying to go for a job.
Yes.
In the same way that if you really want to work for a company, which they potentially would, why would you not use the same steps?
Yeah,
as
well,
if
I call
you-
it the Tinder
see where you-
profile. The
no,
Tinder,
exactly.
you don't send messages the same message to all your prospective
No.
dates. You have to kind of personalize it.
And what is your USP and how you add value for that
Yeah.
brand?
Yeah. So okay, so let's just say that has happened and somebody has caught your eye. What would the next step be?
It's always great if a talent and sometimes do a follow up, because we're really busy and we might not respond so quickly. I always say you're the only person that can help you. Don't feel like you're discouraged because the brand doesn't respond the first time.
Yeah.
If you feel very strongly, you always approach again. And I respect people who often do a follow up email to say, sorry, you might be busy, but I did send you an email. It would be great if you look at it. I often would respond because I respect that, and I know how much time people put in
Again, it shows
reaching
level of
out.
effort.
Yes, and
Yeah,
effort.
perseverance as well.
Yeah.
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 And we have people who are agents, and we can recommend them as well.
Of course.
So sometimes we will find someone that we really think will be suitable. Obviously, we reply, and if it works out, we'll have at least a virtual call, or if it really works really well, we'll have a meeting. I really believe in having that one-to-one contact, just understand where they're coming from, whether it's a right fit.
And when you say right fit, it's so important.
It's chemistry, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is relationships and chemistry. 100% agree with you. But it's also about vetting those influencers. What's your thought around that, Kay? And what sort of steps do you take? You said that you're often approached by
Yeah.
people. They love what you do. They like the environment, but there could be some hidden challenges in the wardrobe, maybe.
No, for sure. I think for us, specifically when it comes to talent, for us it's more about quality than quantity. So I'd rather have like small pool of like the right talent that are credible in the industry than have like a roster of like 100. And for us, it's going back to the word that you said, vetting. So that's what we do ardently. So like when a talent approaches us and we like their kind of aesthetic and their kind of platform, we do an initial meeting, we get to know them, see if the chemistry is there. But then we take the time to go to our clients and brand partners, like Grace, for instance, and ask her thoughts on like the talent. On like, have you heard of the talent before? Do you like their aesthetic? Is there any feedback? Do you see yourself working with this talent in the future? Is there potential? So we take the time to vet, and we go to a number of like brands and do this, because I've come up the ranks with the people at these brands, having been in the industry for 15 years now. So it's just a phone call, and we literally just ring around and then ask our friends in the industry their thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of talents out there, but in a sense, it's a small industry because...
And people talk.
Yeah, people do
I'm
talk.
sure. What you want is people that you know have got a good reputation.
Exactly.
Turning up.
Looking at professionalism, seeing if they're actually legit and authentic and standing by what they say.
And another big issue, I know it's got a lot better, but in the earlier days of influencer marketing, because there was a lot of money involved, one of the challenges that we faced was people who have bought followers, bought likes, bought views, and therefore they've over-amplified their presence, if you will. And of course that's given, unfortunately, influencers a bad
For
name.
sure. And that's very important for an agency, because once you let a talent like that in, it can taint the rest.
Absolutely.
And then make doubt be like, I mean, then brands will start doubting the other talent and then the agency. I think this is why we're very, very protective of like the talent that we let into the agency.
It's really, really important. So now what about stuff like media decks and stuff like that? I think, what people don't know, maybe a visually stimulating CV, if you will. How important is it for creators that are coming up through the ranks to present themselves in a professional manner?
I mean, I can certainly speak for agencies, and Kay has one of the best kind of roster decks that they can share. They often update and share, even though we work with you guys for a long time, they often just send reminder like, just I know we work with you with these talents, but we also have these talent.
A gentle reminder.
A gentle
every few
reminder.
months.
Often they understand their clients, whether they're global or UK, because I have a lot of agents, and they're obviously very proactive, and it's great that they are, but they send often decks that are more geared towards a certain market or global, whereas if you know that my remit is more UK, I would look for a roster that is more UK focused. The audience is UK. I wouldn't be working with talent that have a 80% US following,
Exactly.
because that's not where my budget is. So just kind of understanding the needs of your client and adapt your roster accordingly. But if you're doing it yourself, often you would have different versions of your deck, depending on what market you're trying to work on and focus on.
And what would you typically have on there? The follower numbers, the engagement
I mean, for
rate?
us, we always put like the gender breakdown, because I think that's very
Of the
important.
followers.
Of the followers, and then the demographic, the location that they're in, the audience, and then the age range, and then we also have a little bio about the talent, and then we have an interactive deck because we want it to be easy for the client, so they can click on certain links and it takes them directly to their Instagram or their TikTok or their YouTube, because we're in a very time poor industry. And society, so make it so easy for the client. And then also images, visuals on like, doing a beauty campaign, lifestyle, fashion, to show how well-rounded the talent can be.
You'll be
Not necessarily
surprised.
pigeonholed.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised some agents do send the deck, but then if you click the link, it's a wrong link. So that kind of already you just think, I don't have time to look for even if someone that looks great, and often the talent don't have their handle is not their name. So then I have to do extra work to find out what the actual link is. So those little things do count sometimes when you present a deck. Make sure the links work.
So let's talk a little bit now about briefing, because this is a really, really important process. And contracting, both very important, is understanding what is expected of both parties. So often when you hear about campaigns that have gone wrong, it's because either the talent or the brand had got a complete misalignment with their expectations. So what are the sorts of things that you would expect in a brief, either that you're giving to talent or that you're receiving from a brand?
You've received a few.
I mean, a lot.
Some straightforward and some more complex, perhaps.
I think it's also down to the brand, right? Because you can only convey what the brand wants, and like on paper, sometimes it's very hard. What you do really well is you're like, shall we jump on a call? because that goes a long way. And then after the call, then the talent presents a mood board, which gets signed off by the brand. So, you're on the same page, you're aligned. I think just to preempt any reshoots or angst towards it.
Well, even things like, is it Nike or Nike?
Yeah.
And suddenly you've just gone and made a whole video and you've got completely the wrong, pronunciation of that particular name or brand. Something that is so easily, there could be an assumption, but these video shoots can be very expensive.
Very expensive, and it's a big production sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and do you have reshoots?
So
is that built into the contract?
Contractually, we always say a minimum of 2 reshoots. For us, we want to obviously nurture the relationship with the client, and if we feel like it's going to save the campaign and we want to do the best job, we do go and do more shoots, obviously within a limit. But if you've done 2 reshoots and you still don't have it right, maybe you shouldn't be on the campaign.
Right.
But I think with the brief, a good brief is just very succinct, no room for vagueness, straight to the point. It helps if you send the brand book with it and the brand guidelines, and then present a mood board. I think that's the basic foundation.
I think also it's the job of the agent as well. If the talent are represented by agents and managers, and we don't have direct contact with the talent, it's the job of the agent to digest. I have to digest the brief. I have to explain to the agent. If we don't understand, what the chances the talent would understand.
And I know when that is, because then you and your team are like, so do you guys get it? Yeah. Do you want to jump on a call? Do you want to WhatsApp?
Yeah. And I think there are times when, I have experience when the agent actually didn't read it properly. So I can tell because they obviously haven't relayed back. And that's when the miscommunication would happen. I think a good brief is clear, concise, have clear do's and don'ts. In terms of a luxury setting, in this case, beauty and fragrance, having the cap in the right direction. Yeah. Those are little things. Or when you put a product being featured, try not to put a lipstick that is your beauty brand in the shot. These are the little things that sometimes when it's had a look at it, think, oh my God, it's a beautiful piece of content, but you just casually put
clean the bottle, make sure the bottle is full.
No fingerprints. So the little things has to be attention to detail and.
But it's like an advert.
Yes.
It is. It's a mini advertorial.
So, you think about what you see on TV and the steps that would go in place. Why would that be any different?
Yeah.
The way you see it.
The way you have a contract and a brief is to try and remove those things that perhaps somebody hadn't even thought of because they assumed, this is okay, good to go.
The mood board is always a good thing, especially in the luxury world. We have the brand protectors. We have to protect the equity of the brand, so that's why it's a little bit more steps involved in terms of getting a content approved. But when a beautiful piece of content appears, it's magic. But we are always on our WhatsApp group where we
24/7,
and it's the feed. When you see a piece of content, the amount of conversation that goes behind the scenes, people don't often see.
And I get it, because you're, like you said, you're being very protective because you are the brand protector, and we are the talent are the extension of the brand and an ambassador, right?
Well, also the other thing is it's not just the visual stimulus; it's the words that go alongside that.
Captions, the messaging.
Captions and messaging is very, very important, isn't it? What is it that's going to really draw people in? And it's not just always the video, the photograph. It's
100% the call to action.
And especially with Instagram, with the caption, a lot of times now it's not just about the product; it's about the purpose. It reflects what that product makes them feel, whether it's Marc Jacobs Perfect, about pride. What does that mean to you? What is your chosen family? So you have to find the right talent in order for them to be authentic in telling their story. It's not a caption about selling the product. It's
not a generic
the
caption,
kind of marriage between what the brand's purpose and what is the talent's own values, and that's what makes people engage, because a picture can tell 1,000 words, but then
the caption
it's also important. Now with video, we have voiceovers, we have all of that. That's also important.
Well, also it's making sure that no piece of content goes out there before everybody's approved it and signed it off, and that's your sort of saving grace, I guess.
Yes and no. There are times when we have an event and we have people that we work with, paid partners, and the stories we don't need to get approval because we trust them. They know they are fully briefed. They know they're in a setting that is completely in that brand environment.
Tailor-made for that
they
content.
They know if you do a lot of fashion week activities.
And you've got to be on it.
So if we're at a fashion show or anything, we're in the environment that's been curated by the brand. So, I mean, that's already done for us. So it's more about the talent conveying that whole experience. And as long as we've got the right handles and hashtags, we're good to go.
The brands do trust these content creators because of that long relationship, that they're not going to go off piece. They're there for a reason. They know what is expected.
Well, also, I guess I'm a great fan of long-term brand relationships because in a way you are immersing the talent within that brand, and also the talent's followers are starting to associate that talent with multiple messages, and it's becoming an ambassador role in a way, isn't it?
And I think with a good relationship with either the talent or agent like Kay is that sometimes you're very proactive, saying if there are other areas that often editorially we send them a nice fragrance or gifting, they're more than happy to feature it. There's nothing to do. It's not like we're getting something for free. It's that understanding.
It needs to be organic because I think the relationship is two ways. It's not just about paid ads, and because the talent is partnering with the brand because they believe in the brand, they enjoy the product. So then they want to actually organically post about it, and they don't need to be paid to do it.
Now, it sounds like you have a perfect relationship, you two.
So far.
I mean, it's up and down.
But what happens when things do go wrong? And I'm not necessarily suggesting it has or it could be.
We've been in that position before when certain talent, like for instance, I mean, we won't go into details, but like there was a campaign we worked on where the talent was abroad and had to shoot a piece of content, but then collectively we felt that content wasn't luxury enough to actually put forward to the brand. So I think we reshot a few times, and it was also like it was a very, very precise brief. So I think there was a lot of room for interpretation, and I think the talent and also us, we had completely different, we weren't aligned on it. So it happens, but then we worked collaboratively and we actually just reshot it and got there in the end.
And I think also understanding from their point of view, like you have to obviously manage someone's personal life. We don't know what's going on with that person's personal life, reason why it didn't work out. Maybe it's being submitted late. You need to understand why, but if you don't have the relationship, then you wouldn't be more understanding.
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, and just going back to the contracts, it's important to say timing. You are required to post on these times. Or is there some flexibility?
I think there should be a window. I think in contracts what we've started doing is instead of having a precise date, unless it's like an event or a key launch on the 30th, it needs to be out by 10 a.m. We get that because then all the content's pretty much done a month before and approved and signed off.
Right.
But I think when it's like this annual contracts, it's very hard when you sign on the dotted line a year in advance to know precise dates. So as a talent manager, we always ask for like a window of time. So we know not to put any competing brands when we're like building the pipeline for the talent. Or we know that like the talent shouldn't travel during this period in middle of August because something's going to happen, which you're really good and transparent about to give us a heads up.
Yeah.
And say like in November, just block out these 2 weeks. We don't know the dates yet,
Yeah. But I guess it's also, some of these talent have got life-changing experiences, which getting married, for example.
Yeah. Getting pregnant.
Was it a big travel influencer actually linked up and a big Italian airline did a whole feature on them, and they branded the whole airline, and it was it was momentous. And of course, what happened is the followers were all part and felt part of that experience. So I guess when it comes to brand strategies, lots of things can be planned in advance, but there's going to be things that happen on the moment. A big social campaigns.
There must be stories for every brand that's worked with people who are Valentine's Day, and then when it comes to it, they break up, and you have to then adapt and maybe move the deliverable. Say, let's not do Valentine's Day.
We'll do Mother's Day instead.
Let's do Mother's Day. So you have to be agile. You can't just go just because we put it in the contract. But it's contracted the deliverables, but the moment can be changed because you can't make someone do a piece of content that has nothing
Also,
to
the
do
talent's
with them.
willing to go. I think they understand the kind of strength and the power of that relationship, but they're willing to go above and beyond if they're business savvy. Yeah.
What about payment? I mean, when it comes to sort of contracting, is it usual to be paid in advance, a part payment, or post?
I mean, for us, I think what's happening now, and this is industry-wide, and this is why I've been talking to my peers about other talent managers. Right now, how it is that you don't get paid until completion of the last deliverable. But what we've started doing, because there is so much production cost and like it takes a while to like just get set up internally and whatever, so we start the kind of invoicing process earlier, and we're now starting to ask for 50% deposit just so the talent has the funds and has a cash flow to kind of create the content and pay their photographers and videographers and
some of their costs would be required up front.
Exactly, all of their costs are required up front, so they're paying out of pocket until the end of the project.
Yeah, and it works better for us as well, for at least for the bigger companies. When you have 50-50, then it just your cost is spread out because people are still looking at the P&L. You don't want to have spent all your budget in one month.
You do hear some real horror stories about content creators that haven't been paid in an appropriate manner.
I mean,
like 90-day payments.
1 year.
It's atrocious. But these are small. These aren't like multinational businesses. These are individuals who've done the job, done great creatives, and have signed a contract, but have not been paid in a timely manner.
I think from my experience, it's like these big corporate companies. Obviously, they've got like thousands of employees, and they need to manage their kind of cash flow, right? So you can only have an outgoing of a certain amount every month. So I can understand from their point of view as a business why they kind of push and delay invoices. But we are, I think a lot of agencies have this issue where we're still chasing invoices from a year ago, and then the talent hasn't been paid, we haven't been paid. And then what do you do in that case? Like, do you get legally involved? Do you want to ruin that relationship? We've got other talent working with that brand. So, I mean, it's...
Well, you could... I mean, a year is, in my mind, way too long.
And it's always a fashion brand, so never beauty. Never beauty, it's always the big fashion brand.
Yeah, it's like built on straw, the fashion industry, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, this is great. And future, what's the future plans for Coty? Anything exciting that we should look out for?
Obviously, like any other beauty brands, we are doing multi-social platforms. Instagram is still important, but more to do with videos, reels. So in terms of talent, we're looking for people who can actually create really beautiful video talent, video content. TikTok is another thing. There's a different kettle of fish when it comes to TikTok
100%
talent than Instagram talent. Some people cross over, they can do both. One of your talent could do both.
Sam Salter is really good at doing
both, which is like the fun side, more authentic side, but then you have the really beautiful content as well. And the other thing is finding talent who can do live, any kind of live. It's not easy to be sitting in front of a mic and talk and sell something or present something. You can look amazing doing editing. So you have to have different types of content creators. I personally refer to them as content creators or talent. People still call them influencers. I mean, there's so many different names, right? But anyone who can tell a story are content creators.
100%, yeah.
And Kate, what about your amazing agency? What's in the pipeline now?
I think
you were telling me about beforehand one of these the triplets.
Oh, the triplets, my darling triplets. They're my first babies. They're the ones that I started.
You already had triplets in the first pregnancy.
First pregnancy, 3 girls. Yeah, beautiful girls. They're amazing talent. But I think as an agency, what we're now looking at is the different platforms. So obviously, a lot of our talent are on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. But then obviously there are new platforms coming out like Lemonade that TikTok is launching. Snapchat's somehow come into the conversation again. So we're trying to see how to navigate that landscape. But also as an agency, we want to kind of champion diversity and inclusivity in talent. Yeah. So we're out looking for new, fresh faces, but more than just a pretty face. Someone that stands for something, brings that credibility, has a different profession, whether they're a poet, a writer, director. We're talking to someone that is a BMXer right now, a footballer. we'll see.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's lovely to have you both
Thank you.
on the show. On your first podcast, what was it like? What was the experience?
Do you know what? It was
like?
really good. Doing it with a friend.
Yes.
Popped my cherry.
Yes. Maybe next time we have some drinks round.
Lovely to see you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.